Masechta Shabbos, Daf Nun Beis 52. So one of the two Amiroim were traveling, and one of the donkeys went ahead. Good morning, Michael. And good morning. One of the donkeys went ahead. So Amar Le Chamorsha Sakavrim Kagon Zeh. A donkey that doesn't listen and is wild. Malat says from Shabbos. Does it make any difference? That means even though we have two different types of shoimrim, these nose rings that are being able to use to watch the donkey, and he doesn't need the prumbia, which is a more complicated device. It's enough with an officer. So going out with the prumbia, which is sort of an extra shmira, is that considered like he's carrying on Shabbos? But maybe a wild donkey, that would be permitted. That a shmira yisera is not considered a burden, and that as long as it's something that's used for shmira, it's permitted for the animal to go out with that on Shabbos. They had a hole made in the horns of a goat to thread the leash through, and therefore, since it's connected to the horns, not just with kshira, it's okay. We're not concerned that it might fall off. Says Rashi, he's going to carry it arba amas b'shus Rabbi. So, boy, Rav Yosef, what if they put it in its beard, in the goat's beard? Since if you pull on it, it's going to hurt the animal, and therefore he's not going to come to sort of pull it off of himself. He's not going to come to unwind it or untie it from himself. Sometimes on its own it gets loose, will fall. You carry it in the public sphere. Teku. So we didn't have an answer to that. Because Teku by Indian Shabbos, we treated lechumra because it's just a deraisa of Shabbos. So the Shulchan Aruch Paskin said it's usher to do that. It's not usher. The lo b'ritzur shebein karneha, that you cannot go out, we said, with a leash between its horns. That it makes no difference whether this was put on the animal for decoration or for protection. It's considered superfluous, and it would be considered carrying. For decorative purposes, it would be considered prohibited because it's not necessary, and it's considered a burden on Shabbos. But in order to protect it, it would be permitted. Amrav Yosef, it's time to Shmuel. It's logical to say that between Rav and Shmuel, it's Shmuel who's the one who said that it's permitted with Shmira. How do you know that? Because Chananya said that no matter what, if it's used for Shmira, you're allowed to go out with it. No, Pumfakir. I can prove to you that it's Shmuel who holds that whether you go out with it for decoration or for Shmira, it's prohibited. Why? They would study in front of Rabbi Shalzu Bezumau. What if the ones that they mentioned in the Mishnah for this animal, they switched to another animal? There are four kinds of animals that go out with this leash. Hasus, Haperet, Agamal, V'chamor, which excludes Lavamut, Gamal, V'chatam. Which, if you have some other kind of leash, it's not good. And this has been said in the name of Shmuel. So the Gemara says, Sameha Makameha. You got to remove that. Baraisa, It has not been said in the name of Shmuel. Freit the Gemara, Machazis to Mesames Hamakamei. Why did you remove this price? Samei Hamakamei to remove the other statement that you made in the name of Shmuel. Why dafka this one? More says, I'll tell you why. We have Befeirush, another Gemara, where Shmuel said that by an animal, if you put something on it for decoration, it's prohibited, but if you put it on for shmir, it's permitted. Itmar, Rav Chia Barash Yamarav, Ben Lenoy Ben L'Shamer Oster, Rav Chia Barav Yamar Shmuel, which is our person, Lenoy Oster L'Shamer Mut. So we seem to have a raya that it's Shmuel who learned that for shmira it's permitted. Meis Ve'aska Kasha, Kashra Ba'ala B'Moseira. If they tied, this is a paraduma, and they put on it some kind of officer, one of these leashes or yokes.
A leash.
So kshera, it does not invalidate it from being a kosher paraduma. The din by paraduma is it may not carry a burden. Now, it has to be that it's only a shmira. But that it's a burden, then it would not be a kosher paraduma, because the Torah says, "Asher lo Allah aleha ol amrachman." You cannot carry any kind of yoke. Amra Abaya b'molicha me'ir le'ir. That if you're taking it from one place to another, so it needs a special yisera. So then you can use this this mosera, because it's normal to protect it that way. And Rava gives a different answer. Shani paraduma karim. Paraduma is worth millions of dollars or more, so it requires extra shmira. So even though this is something that it normally doesn't go out with, for a paraduma, it's appropriate. And Ravina Amar b'moredes, with an ox or a para that is not docile, it angers easily, it's wild. So it needs an extra shmira. Period. Then it says asus basher. The horse can go out with a yoke. My yotzin, and it says yotzin unimshachim. My yotzin my nimshach. What does that mean? Amravuna o yotzin kruchin. The leash could be wrapped around its neck. O nimshachim, or it can be pulled with this with the leash or the yoke that it has. It can go out with a leash that you pull. They don't yotzin kruch. It can't go out with the thing with the ritzua around its neck. It's not considered a masui. It's considered the normal way that it goes out on normally. We would see the calves of Ravuna yotzin b'afsarein kruchim b'Shabbos. He would allow them to go out on Shabbos with the leashes wrapped around their neck. Kiyas Rav Dimi Amar of Chanina, Molo shel Beis Rebbe, Yotzos b'afsarein b'Shabbos. These are some kind of horses or mules or something, and they could also go out with these things wrapped around their neck. Are they just wrapped around their neck, or are you allowed to pull them? That the things are wrapped around their neck, so that the person can stick his hand, because there's enough space between the leash to let his hand go in there. So he doesn't need the dragging leash. We don't need this statement because Rav Dimi nafka. We learn it from Rav Dimi. Because if Rav Dimi allowed you to pull it, Rav Yudam Shmuel nafka. But that was already learned from Rav Shmuel. Rav Yudam Shmuel. They would teach in front of Rabbi Shalzu Bazumau. What if you switched implements between animals? Asusva per v'gamol v'chamor, and Amar Ravasi Yitzrich Lu. I need it because the Imer Rav Yudah Nafka Havamina Amar Lefana V'Lo. Maybe he stated that Allah, but it wasn't accepted. Kamash one Rav Dimi. So we have the sheet of Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi Havamina Anim Milinim Shachin. To pull it up Kruchin Lo. Kamash one Rav Shmuel Rav Yudah. They held both Kruchin and Nimtzachim. You're allowed. And says the Shulchan Aruch, Yotzim Malachem Mishachim B'Chevel. They can go out with a rope dangling and you can pull it. Then Yotzim Malachem Karchim, you can go out with the rope wrapped around its neck. Because the halach is like Ravuna. Then the Mishnah said, that if they're wearing one of these rings and the ring became tamei, you could put the animal into the river and it would be toivel. You don't have to take it off the animal to be toivel. So first the Gemara says, L'meimer to make kabula tuma ninu is a implement, a kli, that an animal wears. Is it makabel tuma? But not. Tabas Adam Tmeya. V'tabas Behem of the Kelim Misharkol Tabos Toros. Only human rings or rings that are connected to like a pot, I guess that are detachable. Only they are considered a kli that are makabel tuma, because in the parsha, Rashi says etz David samid, then you have to be mitari. But if it belongs to an animal or some kind of ring that you put on a door, right? It's only if it's used by a human being. It's makabel tuma. The others are not. So how can you tell me in the Mishnah that if an animal is wearing a ring, it can become tamei? We have a Mishnah that says they can't. On Rav Yitzchak Nafcha, b'boy minoi adam l'noi behema. This we're talking about a kli that used to belong to an animal. It used to belong to a person, and then became tamei, and then you switched it to an animal, so it remains tamei until you tie it. Rav Yosef says differently. Since the ring that's in the nose of the animal, who's holding on to it? It's a human being. So if the human being is using it to direct the animal, so it's really a kli for the benefit of human being. So it's considered a tashmish of a human being, and therefore it fulfills the criteria of being able to be metame. Milo tanya makel shel behema shel matechas. The stick that you would use to chase an animal. If it's made out of metal, mekabel tuma. Because a person uses it to, move the animals along. So since a ring in the nose of an animal, the human being uses it, so it's also mekabel tuma. And the Mishnah said, you don't have to remove it from the animal and be toivel it if it becomes tamei. The animal can go into the river itself, and the kli becomes tor. Asks the Gemara v'ayika chatzitza, just like we take our rings off when you do netilas yadayim, because it's a chatzitza, it's a separation between the water and your skin. So how come there's no chatzitza here by the animal? Amravami b'shiritchan. You used a hammer to increase the space between the rings or whatever, so that the water can go in there. Must be that Ravami does not hold of what Rav Yitzchak said before, that we're talking about a kli that came from a human being, that then was used for an animal. Even the Ritchan, I understand, once you hammered it, you did a maisa to this kli. It's like you broke the kli, and you don't need tefillah anymore. Once you have in mind to use a piece of metal for a kli, even though you don't physically use it, you just have in mind that it's going to be a kli, and as sheretz falls in it, it already becomes tummy. You can't not, let's say a kli became tummy. You can't in your mind say, oh, this is not a kli anymore. You have to actually do a maisa, you have to break it. So why doesn't Rav Yitzchak nafcha, if according to us, that in order to get the water, so it's not a chatzitza, you gotta hammer it. By hammering it, you already removed it from the state of tumma. It doesn't need tefillah. So the more says, sort of like Rabbi Yehuda, Domer Maisa L'Takein. He only held that if you're gonna a maisa to correct it, lav maisahu. That's not a maisa that we're talking about. We're talking about a maisa of kilkul. Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Lo Omer Shira Maisa L'Takein L'Kalkel. The maisa that's needed here, we're talking about breaking something to destroy its use, and that so masnisatani b'mechulalin. So in the Baraisa, they learned that the reason why the animal can go in to the river without taking the ring off is because it's hanging. It didn't fit perfectly. There was a lot of space between the ring and so the water could get in and touch the whole ring and become tall. A certain Talmud asked Rabbi Eliezer, Shomati shecholkin ben tabas l'tabas. There is enough kamin and halacha regarding rings, but they didn't understand what he was talking about. Omer lo shema lo shomati elin Shabbos. Must be there's a difference in rings regarding this din of Shabbos. That means there are those things that you can go out on Shabbos with, those that you can't. Like we're going to learn later on in the next parak in Bameh Isha. Like if it has a choisam on it versus not a choisam, like a seal, then it defines whether it's a tachshit or not, and whether or not you can go out on Shabbos with it. But the ilanin tuma davidocharihi. But regarding rings, it's the same. Regarding tuma, there's no difference between rings. But how can we say that? We see there is a difference between rings, even regarding tuma v'tahara, because we said a human ring can become tamei, an animal ring cannot. He's talking about human rings, that there's a difference, that there's no difference by human rings regarding tumah. Freik the Gemara, who the Adam, David, Achasi, what? There's no nafkamina between rings of human beings. I'll show you there is. Vatanya, Tabas, Shiskin Lach Korba Mosnav. You have a ring that you're going to use for your belt. Ulakasher Bobeg Tefon. Or for your armpit, Tahoira. So it's like a tabas kalim. It's not like a human thing. Rashi says, it's not like a human being drags that ring. It just sits on your belt. The belt will be mekabel tuma. But the ring itself would not. So there are rings, l'chora, in human beings that are taught, some that are Torah. Only a ring that you wear on your finger. So when he said that there's no difference in halacha regarding tumah v'tahara, he was referring to rings on the finger. With the etzba david hachasi, even ring fingers, there's enough kamina. Ditnan tabashlu matechas. if it's a metal ring, the chosma shel almo, and the seal that was used, the signet seal, was made out of wood, tmeya, because the majority of
it's coral. It's not wood. It's coral. It's made out of coral.
Yeah, but Rashi says it's a atse almogium.
It's a type of cedar.
What?
It has to be they used to hew out coral so that they had made a seal of it.
I understand, but Rashi says atse almogium. See, because
wood. I know what he says. I know, but I'm just telling you.
It could be a coral reef also.
Yeah, coral.
Maybe a coral is also considered an eighth.
Yeah, like
but
wood.
A coral doesn't grow from the ground. Coral is
in the ocean.
Is an ocean living? It's a living thing. Coral.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. I don't know what Rashi says it's some kind of wood, but okay, but even a coral would not be metal, so it also would not. But since the majority of the ring is metal, so even though the seal part, right, they used to use a signet, they would stick their ring in ink, and the duke would use that to sign his document. Okay, but if the ring was made out of the wood or the coral, he shall agma v'chos tahara, because only a wooden kli is not makabel tuma, unless it has a base kibul, because it's considered pshute kli etzu. A wooden spoon would be makabel tuma, or a wooden bowl, because it's got a base kibul. But a ring is considered a pshute kli etzu. It's just like it doesn't have a receptacle. So ki kamerle iyunami kula shel matechas kamerle. So in a chanami, when we said the principle that all rings have the same halacha regarding tumah v'tara, it means metal rings. The odd shot. He asked another question. Shamati shechokin bein machat lamachat. I heard that there's a difference in halacha between needles and needles. Amar lei shemalo shamata elin Shabbos. Must be regarding Shabbos. In terms, can you carry a needle on Shabbos? Because we're going to learn later on that there's a chiluk between a needle that's got a hole versus a needle that's no hole. One's going to be considered a tachshit, one's not. So that means one you could carry, one you could not carry. But otherwise, regarding tumah v'tahara, all needles are the same. Freik the Gemara, linyan tumah dava achasi. Are all needles the same? But not. I'll show you it's not so. If you have a needle and its point, Rashi says pointer, its point was removed, so it's no longer tamei. So you have a distinction between needles. So ki kormelei b'shleim. When they said that there's no difference regarding tumah, we're talking about a complete needle. You think that it's the same halacha even by shleimim? I'll show you not. You have a needle that got the eye of the needle got filled up with something. If you can't thread the needle, so it's not useful to hoira. So it's not a kli. So you see, even with a sholim dika needle, you have nafkaminas. Right? You can still see that it looks like a needle. So there's an nafkamina. Ki kamerle, b'shifa kamerle. When we say that all needles have the same din, we're talking about a needle that doesn't have some kind of deterioration in it. For Gemara v'shifa, where there's no deterioration, is it the same din? David achasi, but not Tanya. Macha, a needle. Bein nekuva, bein ein nekuva, whether it's got a hole or not, mutu l'tatul b'Shabbos. So they're not muktzah. and they're considered a kli. And v'lo min nekuva ela le'inyan tumah bilvad. So you see, they're the same halacha by Shabbos. So the nafkamina, when we said that there's no difference between machal and machal, is regarding tumah. Rashi says, "Shu golam, sheniktet samanachut, vomedes linakev." So the thread's been removed, and you can make a hole in it, but the kolzman shalom nikva, until you make the hole in it, ain't a makabel tumah. So in that situation, there would be difference. But Linyan Shabbos still permitted, because you can go out with any kind of machat. But a machat shenigbar malachla could go on ishpin galah. But that kind of needle, like an ishpin galah, that doesn't have a room to make a hole in it, so they both would have the same din regarding tumah v'tahara. Mishnah. Chamor yotzei b'mardas can go out on Shabbos with its saddle, keeps it warm, because Rashi says even in summer donkeys are cold. So, but you got to make sure that the saddle is tied. We'll see, because if it's not tied, it might fall off. You'll carry it. Zecharim yotzei levuvin. These are male sheep. They go out. We'll see what that is. It's like something to protect the genitalia. Rechelos yotzei shechuzos. The female sheep go out with shechuzos, which Gemara will explain what these are. Kvulos ukvunos. Ha'izim yotzos tzruros. The goats go out with their udders tied up, so they won't cause them. Also, shemahatkin k'deshlo yichalvu od v'yisabru. They want them not to nurse anymore, so they tie up the breast because they want them to become pregnant, because they're trying to breed more goats, or it's easy for them to eat. Or sometimes Rashi says to protect their milk, so it doesn't drip on the ground. So they tie them up, or they put some kind of like a container over the udders, so the milk drops into them. Rabbi Yossi Yomer B'Kulon, you can go out on Shabbos with all these chutz min harachelim hakvunos, except the sheep which are kvunos, which protects the wool so it doesn't get dirty. And it's considered a tachshit, and therefore that they could go out with. And otherwise he prohibits it because they're not tachshit. Because an animal can go out with a tachshit, like something that's a kli that it uses. Rabbi Yehuda Omer izim yotzos tzruros liyavesh. If the purpose is to dry them up, and you tie it up really good, so they're not going to fall, and you're going to pick it up and carry it down, and then it's allowed. But to go out with that implement where they used it to collect the milk, that they're not allowed to go out with, because that's not tied too tightly, and we're afraid they're going to drop. In Rishus Harabim, you'll carry them Rishus Harabim. So it's a gzeira that you're not allowed to do it. Okay, so tonight we have the Navi Shir 8 o'clock, and tomorrow night the Daf Yomi is 8 o'clock regular time.
Good day, everyone.